So, today I am here with a book haul. I bought some books and I wanted to share them with you. So, here we go. First up, we have Strange the Dreamer by Lani Taylor, and this cover comes with a bit of a story behind it. So, this is the original UK edition cover art for Strange the Dreamer, which I have always thought was beautiful, but is now out of print, and you can only, in the UK at least, get this cover, which I'll insert a picture of for you so you can see the difference. And frankly, I just don't like that cover as much as this one. And so I saw that Amazon had a library bound edition with this original cover art on it, and that's what this is. So it is a hardback, but with some differences. So the cover is printed directly onto the hardback, which I actually really love, and I kind of wish that they'd do that with more hardbacks. Not that I don't like a dust jacket, but I always take them off when I'm reading the book anyway, and then you've got like a cloth bound cover which can get easily damaged, whereas this is wipeable, which I like. It's also quite boxy, which is unusual, and it's actually pretty lightweight for a hardback, so I'm pretty impressed with it, to be honest. But aside from that, it's a book that I've been wanting to read for quite a while. It's been on my TBR for ages. It's got a lot of hype here on BookTube. We follow a character named Laszlo Strange who is obsessed with this place called Weep, or at least that's what it's known as now, because no one can remember the name of the city of Weep. And Laszlo gets selected to go on an excursion to the lost city of Weep to try to discover some of its history. And the main thing I hear about this duology in general is that the writing is really lyrical and beautiful, which makes me a little bit skeptical because that's not usually my thing. But it's one of those where there's so much hype that I really want to see what all of the hype is about and whether it's worth it. And that's why I was quite keen to get the cover that I wanted, just in case I don't like the book. At least I've got a pretty book on my shelf. You know, is that weird? Maybe. Next up, we have Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman, which is a book that I originally borrowed from the library to read for Yalk, which I'm going to next month, and I liked it so much that I decided to pick up a copy of it. And it is a graphic novel that follows the budding relationship between two male characters who actually are a couple in Alice Oseman's debut novel Solitaire, I believe, so that's not a spoiler. It's pretty, I mean, you can tell from the cover at least that, you know, it's about a couple, but it's so cute. It's just, I don't know any other way of describing it other than to say that it's just so cute and so accurately captures that feeling of being young and trying to figure it all out. Plus, I really like the way that Alice Oseman writes. She is British and she writes proper British talk really well. Another one that I have already read is The Quiet at the End of the World by Lauren James, and this is a sci-fi book that again I picked up from the library to read for Yalk, and I liked the book so much that I decided that I wanted to pick up a copy for myself so that I could get it signed. This follows the two youngest people left on Earth after a virus hit the planet and caused global infertility, and we follow them discovering what that means, really. And I loved it. There were so many twists and turns, and they weren't just twists for twist's sake. They totally made sense. I mean, I did figure a couple of them out before they happened, but they were still shocking. You know what I mean? Like when it's still, you knew it was coming, but even if you knew it was coming, it was still like, I cannot believe that just happened, but it did, and it was amazing. So I really, really enjoyed this book, and I'm really glad to have a copy of it on my shelf because it's definitely the kind of book that I would enjoy rereading. Then we have another book that I wanted to read for Yalc, which is called State of Sorrow by Melissa Salisbury. And the reason I had to properly check the title of this one is because this is book 1 in a duology, but for some reason all of my local libraries only have book 2, which isn't really helpful, and I don't know why libraries do that. It's not the only instance of that I've seen. There's a few other books on my Yalc TBR that they have the sequels of, but they don't have the first books of, and I haven't read the first book, so I can't borrow the sequel until I've read the first book. And this one was interesting enough of a premise for me to want to pick it up. Plus, I bought these two and one other from Wordery, which is kind of like Book Depository but with better delivery, and I needed to spend a certain amount to get next day delivery for £1, so there you go. I'd rather spend the money on an extra book than spend it on delivery, you know? So this one follows a female protagonist who is filling in for her father, the king, who is unable to carry out his duties because he is grief-stricken, which is interesting because grief is not a theme that I see very often, especially in YA books. Not that I've noticed, but maybe it's just the books that I'm reading, to be fair. This is actually fantasy series, or duology, really. So that's interesting because it feels, from the synopsis, it feels almost contemporary in tone, but it's actually a fantasy. I'm interested to see the juxtaposition between those two things, and also, I mean, look at this cover. This cover is beautiful, and it's one of those rubbery covers, and by now you probably know how I feel about those, which is, I love them. Then we have Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman, which is another book that I wanted to read for Yalc and could not find at any library anywhere. I possibly could have got it as an ebook, but I have found in the last couple of years that I just don't absorb stories as well when reading them in ebook format as I do reading them in this format. I have no idea why that might be, but it's just a thing I've noticed, so I'm going with it. Now, the synopsis for this one sounds a little bit confusing, so I'm actually just going to read it to you because I'm not sure that I could summarise it without having read it. Hopefully I'll be able to do a bit better once I've actually read it. So it says, Kiko Himura has always had a hard time saying exactly what she's thinking. With a mother who makes her feel unremarkable and a half-Japanese heritage she doesn't quite understand, Kiko prefers to keep her head down, certain that once she makes it into her dream art school, Prism, her real life will begin. But then Kiko doesn't get into Prism at the same time as her abusive uncle moves back in with the family. So when she receives an invitation from her childhood friend to leave her small town and tour art schools on the west coast, Kiko jumps at the opportunity in spite of the anxieties and fears that attempt to hold her back. And now that she is finally free to be her own person outside the constricting walls of her home life, Kiko learns transformative truths about herself, her past, and how to be brave. So this one is contemporary, and I have been reading more contemporary recently, especially for Yalc. There's quite a lot of young adult contemporary books on my Yalc TBR, and again, this was one of those that I was really interested in picking up, and so when I couldn't find it at the library I decided to just go ahead and buy it. And if you are able to buy books from Wordery, this isn't sponsored or anything, but I would recommend it because the prices are the same as Book Depository and Amazon, but with Amazon I find that quite often the books can arrive slightly damaged, which is annoying, and also with Book Depository it just seems to take forever for the books to arrive and you can't track them or anything, which is really frustrating. So I would recommend Wordery because it's basically the exact same thing, but if you spend, I think it's £25 on books, then you get next day delivery for £1, which I think is really good. So that's just a public service announcement for you. Next up we have Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, which is the second book in the Grisha trilogy, however you want to pronounce that one. And I read book 1 as part of the Owls Magical Readathon in April, and my sister, Natalie, read book 1, Shadow and Bone, this month. She just finished it like earlier this week, and she really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and so we thought that we'd pick this one up together at some point as one of our sister book club books. I'm not going to tell you what this one is about. To be fair, I don't even know what this one is about because I generally tend not to read synopsis for sequels, but book 1 follows a character who discovers that she has magic that she didn't know about, and she has to go and learn how to use it, essentially. Then we have another sequel, which is Gemina by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, which Illuminae is book 1, and that was the first sister book club book, which we read last month, which was May. Oh my gosh, brain. And we both really enjoyed it, and so we decided to pick up the sequel, Gemina, as our June sister book club book. So Natalie has already started this. I haven't yet because I'm just in the middle of The Beholder by Anna Bright, but I'll be picking this one up as soon as I finished that one, which hopefully will be at the weekend, as in I'll pick this up at the weekend. This, again, because it's a sequel, I can't tell you what it's about, but book 1 follows characters after they have escaped from a planet that was the victim of a terrorist attack, and whilst they are fleeing from the terrorists who are following them, things start to go wrong on board their ships, and our characters have to deal with that. It's sci-fi, but it's got a very disaster movie feel to it, which I don't mind. I'm not a massive fan of disaster movies, I have to say, but there's something about it in book form that I quite enjoy. And then finally, I have had this one for quite a while, but I don't think I've hauled it yet on my channel, and that is Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks, who is a booktuber and author tuber, so go and check out her channel because she's great, and her book is great too. This is the first book in the Dark Shores series, trilogy, not sure, and I read an advanced reader copy arc of this back, I think it was the first book I read this year, so right at the beginning of January, and I loved it. It is an epic fantasy story, so as usual with epic fantasy stories, it's a little bit difficult for me to tell you what it's about without spoilers, but theme-wise it has all the trademarks. There is war, there is politics, there are interesting relationships, there is magic, there is mystery, there's travel. It's all in there. Everything you could want in an epic fantasy story it can be found within the pages of this book, and I would highly recommend it. It is also self-published, so if you do want to pick this up, then you would be supporting the author, Elliot Brooks. And I am glad that I finally got a copy of it, and I'm also really looking forward to rereading it because, like I said, I feel like I just absorb stories better when I read them on a physical page rather than on a digital page. Not that I didn't absorb the story, but you know what I mean, hopefully. And also there is artwork, which is beautiful, and of course I can't find any more now. Oh, there we go. It's probably really overexposed, sorry. There are dragons as well, for any of you fantasy lovers who love dragons like I do. There are dragons, and that's it. Those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books that I have bought recently, and well, 7 books that I bought recently and 1 that I bought a little while ago but I hadn't shown you yet. Let me know down below if you've bought any books recently that you're really excited about, and if you've read any of these, let me know what you thought of them. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks! Bye!